Hello and welcome back to Transport's Fever 2, the UK modded series. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video for yet another Trainspotting video. This time in 1938. I finally got around to doing this. I planned this a few episodes ago and then there were other things that needed to be done and this had to be pushed back, but it is finally here. So over the next, I'm not sure exactly how long this video is, an hour and a half or thereabouts, I'm going to be picking various different locations across the map for us to do some train spotting. Some areas will be quieter, some areas will be extremely busy, some areas will have certain types of trains, other areas will have other types of trains. And you are going to see old trains, new trains, Great Western engines, LNER engines, you will be seeing generic engines as well, all mixed together in a way that would be perhaps what would have happened if the grouping of the Great Four started happening a little bit earlier than it did. So that is the plan. After the intro, I will probably be talking a little bit as we swap to different areas, maybe not all of them, but as we swap to different areas, explaining what the area is and why I did it, or why I've chose that spot, and maybe some of the reasonings behind why certain train consists are the way they are. So for example, the consist that is headed up by A4 trains, those do not have the teak coaches. So somebody actually, I did ask the question about whether I could have a certain type of coach that would allow the A4 locomotives to reach a maximum speed, and somebody, thank you by the way, responded with the correct coach for this period. I had a look at it, tried it out, and then decided against it simply because I am trying to reduce my memory footprint of this particular save. So I'm trying to reduce and remove things that no longer need to be in here. And one of them is going to be some coaches, or some of them are going to be coaches and trains that are no longer required. So far I have saved, I think, about 2 gigabytes. So that is good, and one of the things that I've done is I've got rid of the Pullman coaches and replaced them. So you will see a replacement for those as well. But anyway, that is enough of me blabbering. As I said, I'll talk a little bit about various different bits as we go along, but for the most part it is just going to be train spotting that you can hopefully enjoy. Make sure you stay tuned and let's get started. Okay, so the first spot is just north of Berwick upon Tweed. Now this is where the track has expanded some time ago to 4-track, and I might be considering expanding it to 6-track. And also off to, from where we are looking, off to the left hand side is the route to Alford. Now prior to this we also had brickworks going through here, and a few episodes ago that changed, and now there is a tunnel underneath this track going around to the other side where all the goods are fed through, going over to the marshalling yard, so that those trains do not get in the way of any passenger trains or express freight services. from a relatively busy section, or actually quite busy section of the main line, to what was once a branch line. In fact, you can see one of the circular trains. That is the clockwise service with some of the old coaches attached to it that used to belong in the express service from Bracknell to Sudbury, going along over towards Barnstaple. So that is where you see that direction, and behind us would be the route to Attleborough, and then on the side this is a triangular junction, or T-junction now, where you have the route. It used to only be able to go to Barnstaple, but now for certain trains we have a new section that was built a few episodes ago that can go over towards Attleborough. And here comes one of the Class A3 hauled trains, and I have no idea which number this one is. This is a green train, and it has been photobombed by another train. Well, I suppose you cannot do anything about that. to an old spot just south of Croydon. This is a fairly good spot. I remember building this a long time ago. I made the stone wall here. This was the first time I ever used stone wall, and the idea is that there are castle ruins, old castle ruins here that the railway goes straight past. And over to, if you were to look over to the left-hand side, just past where the castle ruins end, or the stone wall for its ends, that goes towards Shepton Mallet. So this was the main line once that used to peel around to the right-hand side, Croydon in the distance, and the extra bit that was added a little while ago now was the split, the branch over to Shepton Mallet, although I'm not entirely certain that you can call it a branch line. This is part of the Great Western section of the map. So right at the south of the map, this is between Sudbury and going towards Kingsbridge. Sudbury is just behind us, so this is facing west, and this used to be just a very small line with a single train running, or just one. There were actually 3 trains running through the entirety of the line, but it was very quiet. Now, this is a main line, which means that there have been some expansion, which is why there is that 40-mile-per-hour sign with the arrow pointing to the left. In fact, that is where this goods train is going to be peeling off, which is where the track extends to 4-track as a passing loop. But due to the nature of how this track was built, 2-track, there are parts of it that are still stuck, unfortunately, with 2-track. Moving from 2-track, trying to expand to 4-track, to just north of, I believe this is just north of Croydon, where we have a pretty large setup. Is this just north of Croydon, or is this just north of... Ooh, I'm not entirely certain where this is. Either Croydon or Batley. I really do not know where this one actually is when I took this particular clip. Anyway, this is part of the main line. You can see that there are four tracks for this section, and unfortunately trains are going rather slowly in this area, and there are a few places where you are going to notice this, and this is something that I'm going to have to look at improving with both improving the signalling, and also just looking at perhaps expanding the track, or there might be things that need to be reworked a little in terms of routing. This was once a branch line going to Ollerton that has been upgraded to mainline status, so it now has 2 tracks. In fact, it has had 2 tracks for a long time, but this continues all the way over to Sudbury now, and there are a number of trains that use this, both goods and passenger services, stopping services and express services. This is also going to be a running theme in this video, where a lot of lines that you see that are not 4-track tend to be branch lines that have been upgraded to mainline. So for example, one that might have been just running, which is one you might see fairly soon, I'm not sure what order I've got this in, but it might have been running just Barnstaple to Attleborough, used to perhaps just be 1 track, and now it is 2 track and has a whole bunch of trains running on it. Not quite a branch line, but this was part of an extension when the branch line was upgraded, so this became more of a main line. This is where the circular lines run through, and sometimes you do not need to be hovering above the track to get a good view. Sometimes you just need to be looking at the bridges. So the next couple of clips are going to be watching trains going over bridges. Different bridges, one on this side which is going towards West Mersey with Barnstaple to the north, and the next clip will be Attleborough to the north and Barnstaple to the south. Now to the busiest section of the network. This is the entire area between Early and West Mersey, and just the other side of West Mersey. I'm not sure I have any clips for this particular video on the north side of Early, but this is by far the busiest section of track, with the marshalling yard, goods lines going in and out, passenger lines going in and out. You have express services. How many express services do you have going down? There's two different express services, 4 different stopping services, all the goods lines, the whole marshalling yard, the bridge over the top in the distance that you can see just as at the approach of West Mersey, and of course Early listed behind. I'll probably show some clips from different angles of this entire section of the network, but every angle you see, you will see that this is quite busy. from the busiest section of the network to the second busiest section of the network. So this is just south of Berwick, and it is a similar case here, with a marshalling yard on the opposite side and the main line going down towards Taunton, Sudbury, all of that area through here. Now the reason this is the second busiest is because there is a junction just before this that starts peeling trains off towards Ollerton, and because of that you have less trains going through this area, whereas with the previous clips that I showed you between Earley and West Mersey, the junction, as you saw with the final clip, was there at West Mersey, and therefore that area can get really busy. And I think I had to upgrade that to 6 tracks on the main line just to be able to get trains going through it. was Mallard in that clip. If you follow that line along, not in the direction Mallard was hauling a train, but in the opposite direction all the way down, you get to this, what used to be T-junction. And this is, if we go back a few clips, this was originally the line going between Kingsbridge and Sudbury, and it has been expanded to have a whole heap of stuff, and those were the original trains running on it. Well, they have been upgraded once, I believe, but that is all that used to run between Sudbury and Kingsbridge and then on to Taunton. So, yes, things have definitely got a lot busier over here. That being said, it is still quieter than what you see around Berwick. There is less freight going in here, although that track just to the middle right of the screen, going off to the right hand side, that is actually a goods yard. On the opposite side of Kingsbridge, you have a nice bridge, and this is actually a fairly nice place to watch trains from. Where you just saw trains going off to the left in the previous clip, they would go through Kingsbridge and come through this area heading towards Taunton, which is the one of the termini for this map. Speaking of termini, if we go to the opposite side of the map, right up to the north, where would this be, the northwest? Right up to the northwest of the map, you have Berwick. No, not Berwick, Bracknell. And this is where a lot of the trains that go to Taunton and Sudbury start. Some of the trains start in Attleborough, which is in the northeast, but a lot of them begin right here, including every train that is hauled by a Class A4. So the A3s are actually handled down in Attleborough, but the A4s are handled here. Speaking of A4s, there is Mallard hauling one of these trains as a stopping service also makes its way in. Now, I have done my best to number the various A3 and A4 locomotives correctly. With the A4 locomotives, you even have the names, so I've managed to make sure that the name and the number matches. So I think I've had Quicksilver, which you may not have seen, Mallard, which you have seen. There's Bittern, Sir Nigel Gresley, Kestrel, Kingfisher. I think there are a couple of others. With the Class A3s, of which one is on its way in now. Hopefully this one does not get photobombed. I have also named them. So there is the Flying Scotsman around, 4472. That is around. This one that is coming. There is only one locomotive that I have painted blue, which is this one. 2750 maybe? Something like that. This would be Doncaster, would be the name of this engine. Should say it on the side, the number anyway. 2547, I believe. Yes, that is Doncaster. That is the only Class A3 that I have painted blue and did not get photobombed. How nice. From a quieter section of the map where only the occasional train passes on its way, switching between main lines, I suppose, to a much busier section. So this is past Ollerton now, this is the main line heading all the way over to Sudbury. 4-track going down to 2-track with plenty of sections of 4 tracks. The A3s also go along in this section. So unlike the A4s that continue down from Berwick towards Downham Market and down that way, the A3s peel off in this direction, go through Ollerton and past this section. I do really like how this section looks. It just has a very realistic look with the curvature and the field boundaries and telegraph poles and all of that with Ollerton, the houses of Ollerton in the distance. So it does work quite well. Well, sometimes you just want to sit out at a station in the middle of nowhere, because they can be the perfect place to watch trains. This is a little village, the village of Accrington Stanley, which is between Batley and Stratford. No trains actually stop here. This is just decorative, but it is a good place to watch trains from. From a very quiet place to watch trains from in the middle of nowhere to a very busy place to watch trains from. This is further up on the main line. This is actually in Batley, where, I'll be honest, this is probably, at least from this angle, this town looks the most British, the most realistic. It is something about maybe the way you have the hills and the houses going up on the hills and then down with the embankment of the railway, and then you've got the houses down at the bottom, the field. Something about this does look very, very British. And I'm not entirely certain. I cannot quite place my finger on it, but looking at this when I was taking a video clip of this bit, I thought this could work. This part definitely works. And there are a few towns that look like this, but not all of them look quite this good in my opinion. Let me know if you think this is the most British town on the map in terms of how it looks, so visually, or are there other choices that you have? Moving well away from Batsley, this is the viaduct that crosses the River Tweed. So I suppose I could call this the Tweed Viaduct between Berwick and West Mersey. And that was Quicksilver, I believe, as the engine. I did not quite catch the number. This is a very, very busy section of track. Primarily 2-track. There is a 3rd track for freight, and you'll notice that I have done this in a couple of places where heavy goods trains will peel off onto a 3rd track and then hopefully, in theory, stop for passenger services to go past, because obviously passengers would be the express services that passengers want to get to a place at a certain time. Goods they can take a little bit longer, and it would be okay. Now going from a river all the way to a harbour. So this is downstream, way down, way down the River Tweed. There is an inlet over at Shepton Mallet, so that is where we currently are, just around there. And this is the only station that is directly on the waterside, and you can just see some masts of some sailing ships. You have the lighthouse, you have the goods yard directly on the water with some warehouses, and there are some there are some trains going into the station. There is one train waiting to exit. It appears one train will be looking to enter in a few seconds. I was looking at trying to get a better view of the station itself, but I could not quite get the angle. I thought this looks reasonable instead. Sometimes you just want to sit at a branch line, because even the branch lines have their moments. In fact, only 4 branch lines still exist on this map. So this one here between Berwick and Attleborough, Berwick, Bracknell and Attleborough. There is one between Berwick and Alford. There is one between West Mersey and Bentham, and that's 3. Where is the 4th? There are 5 actually. There is one from Stratford to Chagford and Stratford to Bridgnorth. Those are the only ones that still exist. All the rest of them that used to be branch lines have now been upgraded. Back to another station in the middle of nowhere. This one is Stoneleigh Station, because this is near some stone quarries, so I thought I might as well call it Stoneleigh. Now this used to be a branch line, just like what I was saying about branch lines being upgraded. This was a branch line that used to go from West Mersey over to Lichfield and then New Romney. In fact, no, it used to go just over to Lichfield and then turn around. Then it was extended to New Romney, still as a branch line, and then was upgraded to handle a route that goes all the way from Attleborough to Taunton, using stopping services and semi-fast services too. A quick glimpse of Flying Scotsman approaching West Bromwich as a circular route train. The anti-clockwise circular comes towards us, which actually is a new locomotive with some new coaches as well. So those are new. I have not replaced all of them, only a partial replacement, as would be realistic. Now on the other side of the Tweed Viaduct towards West Mersey, or looking towards West Mersey, you can just about make out the old tracks that used to go around. If you look towards in the distance, roughly in the centre, you might just about be able to see the buffers, and that was where the old tracks went around and then bent around, and then we were on a viaduct, and it was much slower, and it was not very good. This is a much improved section of track now, and also if you take a look right in the distance, you might be able to make out another bridge. That is the branch line I was mentioning that goes up to Bentham, and also has a coal mine not too far away from it, which it does have coal trains running to and from. Speaking of branch lines that I was mentioning, this is not the one to Bentham. This is actually the other side of Lichfield. So the one that I was talking about that passes through Stoneleigh. This is on the other side of Lichfield going towards New Romney, where now we have had for a while, it has been upgraded to mainline status, but also you see the bridge that goes across and around, and that is a way just in to the iron mines. So that is where we pick up the iron, which then gets turned to steel in Lichfield, not in this video, and that steel then gets transported to marshalling yard at West Mersey, where it is then distributed wherever it needs to be. Some going to West Bromwich, some heading towards Shepshed, and wherever else they need to go. So Lichfield is to the north, which is following this track in the direction we're facing. New Romney is not too far behind us. Given we have been looking at trains going fairly slowly in places, sometimes you just want to see a Class A4 haul train at speed. So, here is one. Now it is possible you might want to see that more than once, so here is another. I believe this one is Kingfisher. And from the newest and fastest trains that were on the network to the oldest workhorses, these are delivering lumber for goods to be made in... Where does it make these goods? It makes the goods in Downham Market. So that train that is leaving the platform right now, that is a goods train taking planks over to Downham Market to the goods factory. And there is the train that is coming up into the platform right now. That's actually going to be passing through. That has come from Batley, delivering goods. It's just a standard goods train. And you will see another train coming in fairly shortly, which is delivering lumber directly from the lumber yard. What do they call it in here? I've forgotten. Forest? I think they might just call it Forest. Over in the distance where you can just about see that viaduct. And these are, as I said, I believe these are the oldest running trains on the network, still going rather strongly, doing the job that they are supposed to do. Now, I could have added another hour worth of footage, but it was really difficult to try and find footage that I could cut down that looked fairly interesting. I actually do have, I think, about another hour worth of footage, and I could have easily put 2-3 more hours together from all the various different locations, and at some point I might do that, but for now I think it is a good time to end this video. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to click on the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Trainspotting Fever 2, the UK modded series. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think, suggestions you might have. What year should I go to next? Should I jump to 1945 and therefore need to paint all the trains black? Or should I try and jump straight over to 1950 and try and do other things? There is so much that I still need to do, although, to be completely honest, I am getting towards the limit of what my computer can handle. It is really struggling at points to get this rendered with any decent frame rate. So I will keep trying until my computer can no longer handle it. Hopefully that does mean that I manage to reach well into the 1980s, 1990s, because that was always the plan. In the next video, it is going to be back to building. I think there is going to be scope for some massive expansion where bits would have been, in reality, would have been destroyed, meaning that there is scope for building new things, reworking part of the rail network. I was told to try out the Better Signals mod. I need to probably go ahead and do that. So sections of track will be changing to the Better Signals mod, which looks really good. That will take a little while as well. I would say maybe another 20 episodes left in this. But anyway, for now, that is all from me. I shall leave you with one more train going past, a goods train. I shall see you next time in Trainspotting Fever 2, the UK modded series.